Today we're speaking about how can architects unleash the power of perspective, simplify their presentation techniques and process, and win projects. So this is really a very important thing for all us architects because we get so caught up in being meticulous, and beyond that, many architects are not using the right tools in the industry, although they think they are. But when it comes to presentation, there are much easier ways of doing presentation than most people are accustomed to. And it's a huge issue in the industry because people don't know about it. So who am I? Why should you listen to me? I've worked in the architectural industry for about 25 years. I'm just going to put this slide on. There I am on the right-hand side at Starch Foster. And really what happened to me in my career was, as much as I loved working for a firm, I always had this innate feeling of wanting to break free from the corporate environment and start my own thing, because I really enjoyed the whole prospect of having my own little studio more so than working in a commercial environment. A commercial environment's very, very rewarding financially, and basically one needs to respect that, because you don't have to worry about cash flow when you are in a commercial environment. It's a great blessing. But at the same time, one wants to invest in one's future, because big companies always seem to ebb and flow. You know, some go insolvent. So there's always that insecurity. So I started feeling a little bit trapped early on in my career, and basically felt like I was a bit of a caged lion. I'm sure you can relate to that. You know, we all want to break free from our constraints and not be pigeonholed. But anyway, I enjoyed being paid for learning how to conceptualize schemes and basically build new schemes to raise startup capital, create new conceptual designs to show clients this is a retail center, one of the projects, and probably doing about 5 to 6 projects a month, you know, at least 1 or 2 a week. And so I really needed to be quick at what I was doing. So I was using Revit, I was using SketchUp, and I was using Photoshop. We're going to talk about all of that now. Here's some of the work that I would do. These are retail plans for a shopping center down south in South Africa, and we'd come up with a conceptual layout, obviously very real, very exact in preparation. And then from there, we would build different schemes, you know, like shopping centers, high-rise towers, and urban layouts. This is 15 hectares in Nigeria, Akura. And these are all designed and presented by me. And so I've been involved in many different softwares. This is a golf course estate. It's also a big city, sort of a little mini city in the middle of Nigeria. And it's got this huge lagoon. So it's very interesting projects. Love designing this, designed it using tools like Revit, SketchUp, Photoshop, putting it all together finally for the client, and so on and so forth. So these are some high-rise towers using mixed media, V-Ray, using SketchUp, using Photoshop, and this is using Lumion. So I love Lumion. I love the foliage in Lumion. So very versatile when it comes to different types of softwares out there. So kind of know what's been going on in the world. So who is this for? Who is this workshop for? Basically, it's either for design architects, building designers, interior designers, urban designers, landscape architects, and students of architecture. That's what we're going to be looking at tonight, those type of industries within this design industry. And it's also for those that are using Revit, ArchiCAD, SketchUp, Allplan, Vectorworks, Chief Architect. Sorry, I put an S there. It's a spelling mistake. So Chief Architect, any 3D modeling software that you use to create designs. So what is the biggest issue in the industry? So this is the huge issue when preparing 3D imagery, especially perspective. So we all need the ability, if we have got a practice, to show the client 3D imagery. So what really happens is that when this has to transpire, designers start to rely on tools. instead of their own abilities. And what I mean by that is designers start to rely on the software to do everything for them. And I know with the advent of artificial intelligence, people think that AI does everything. It's the same issue again, just at a higher level, that we start to rely on the tools. And then the byproduct of that is that we land up creating something that is not as great as it could be. And that's the biggest problem. There's also, point two, there's a lack of control over the final outcome of a 3D image. Basically, what happens is a lot of individuals are using like Revit or ArchiCAD, and then they just render it, from that software design package, and they get these average type of images. And I know there are diffusion packages and AI that are plugging in and making things a lot better, but still it's extremely sterile. And we're going to take a look at that as well. So there's also the issue for those designers that are plagued by using photorealistic imagery. And using photorealistic imagery can be very tech intensive. So one thing AI does is it does create photorealistic imagery, and that can be really beautiful. But if you're using like D5 render, or if you're using the softwares that are out there, you need to spend a lot of time on texture mapping. So if you really want to be meticulous about your product, you definitely can get involved in some intense processes which can really weigh you down before a deadline and can really put a lot of stress on your shoulders. And then a lot of people are relying on AI at the moment. The problem with AI is that you have absolutely no control. It's very stressful to use AI because you kind of get what you get. It's like a lucky packet. You push the button, and what I mean by lucky packet or lottery, it's just like whatever pops out, and then that's what you have to tell the client you thought about. But it wasn't really you who thought about it. It was the computer. And then to change the stuff in the artificial intelligence programs like Midjourney or Stable Diffusion or all the other softwares out there, then you really need to know what you're doing with prompting, and it can be a nightmare. So AI has its problems. It's not extremely flexible, and you lose control, which is the same issue that most architects already have, because they would employ someone to do their visualizations for them, and they lose control in that process too, because they have to hand it over to someone that hasn't been trained as a designer or an architect. And the last point is to use softwares that empower you to control the outcome together with the design. It's really the essence of what we're going to be speaking about. You need to be able to control your design, and basically when you express your 3D imagery, you need to be able to know exactly how that comes out. And so we're going to speak about that tonight. Is everyone following me? I see a lot of people have their videos and their mics turned off, but if you don't mind and you want to kind of just give me a thumbs up, that would be great. And you can hear my audio. Fantastic. Thank you so much. So this is what you'll gain this fine evening, or it's evening where I am. You'll be able to pitch your own ideas by watching this presentation tonight confidently without relying on others. You'll kind of find a roadmap in this presentation which will give you a foundation to understand what's happening in the world. You will increase stimulating design fee opportunities by 10x. So what that means is that you'll understand how to be the catalyst in getting paid quicker by producing seductive imagery, especially for your clients when they come to client meetings. And you'll get them on board by creating a rapport and building that bridge through your 3D imagery. And that's really a philosophy that I've been using for 25 years, is that my 3D imagery is the bridge building tool when it comes to getting the client on your side, because clients don't understand plan sections and elevations as well as a academic or someone that's been through the process of learning architecture. So we need to distill for the clients. The third point is we also want to reduce deadline stress. Deadline stress, especially after you've been designing, if it's an interior or an exterior, but deadline stress can really be overwhelming. And after, let's say, you've been designing for a week or 2 weeks, you've been designing a project, and then the night before you have to put together a presentation, and that's where AI is coming in and helping us a little bit now, but not to rely on it, is that there's such an overwhelming amount of stress related to that presentation. And now you have to put 3Ds together that can put the nail in the coffin, and it can really make you work through the night and stress you out, and you'll probably only get back home for breakfast in the morning. So that's kind of what we're trying to avoid. We also want to learn how to avoid overwhelming tech challenges with photorealism. So the softwares out there are amazing and they're very powerful, but you need to be well versed in them. You know, you need to almost be a guru at photorealistic render to create beautiful stuff. And that's not a lie. You can try to do it yourself. You'll see that it's something that takes time to learn. It's not just something that kind of happens passively. And I'm sure there are many designers out there that can render really beautifully, but there are very few that can do a great job. So a lot of people are using SketchUp, Revit, ArchiCAD, Vectorworks, Allplan, and I said earlier, Chief Architect, and all the other softwares out there. And they need to easily express a high level of 3D perspective, but they can't, because the softwares in themselves give an average sort of visual product at the end of the day, which for some can, you know, really be disappointing when you go into a meeting with these sort of average drawings. So you want to be able to use SketchUp, Revit, ArchiCAD, and Vectorworks, and then thereafter create something that's mind-blowing without having to break your back. And that's what we're speaking about tonight. Excuse me. Let me just have a drink of water. So what you'll gain is you'll find in this webinar tonight a simpler, more engaging 3D method for design expression. And what we're going to do is we're going to bridge creating stunning imagery fast to sell ideas effectively. So we're going to find a method that helps us create this stunning imagery and help you connect with your clients to win them over with it and to sell ideas effectively. So if that's something interesting, then just simply stay on. What you'll gain from the webinar tonight is also that you'll be able to enhance your portfolio, the quality of your portfolio, to secure more work, because your portfolio is your single most important asset. You know, you may have done 20 projects, 10 projects. I don't know where you are in your career, early career, late career. Your portfolio is your credit card to the future. It's your access. Okay, let's not call it credit. Let's say it's your single most important asset, because firstly, it shows a record of what you've done and also shows what you can potentially do for clients. So if you can build a stunning portfolio, and what I'm saying is that portfolio gets printed out and not on the screen, a portfolio that's actually in a brochure format or a landscape format, or if you want to call it tabloid size, or A3 if you come from the western part of the world, then you can create a huge asset for yourself that can help you leverage more work. And then what you also need as a design architect, which is the best part of the whole process, is to retain full control over your 3D design process. So the 3D design is the most interesting part of the whole architectural process. Besides the initial planning, sections, elevations, the 3D process is the most rewarding, because you start to basically visualize what you've spent so much time doing. So it's the cherry on the top. And what happens to most designers is they land up panning it off onto a student that can do renders for them, and they lose control over that side, which is like sort of 50% of the process. let's move forward, guys. Let me just click on this. So let me just go back. Sir Norman Foster, he says that the pencil and the computer are, if left to their own devices, equally dumb and only as good as the person driving them. And if you understand it on a deeper level, he's basically saying that a ruler, a set square, pens, fine liners, rotring pens, they're tools. They're just simply tools. And they need to be driven by the human mind. And yes, a lot of people may put their foot forward now and say, no, what about artificial intelligence? It does everything for you. It does not. Artificial intelligence needs a human being to guide it because it doesn't have any social skills. It doesn't understand things properly. And you could say it may, and a lot of people say that it is going to, but I think that it is just going to be a very high level tool that we'll be able to use to refine the work that we do. And that's why I've put at the bottom, there's no exception to artificial intelligence. It's going to be used as a tool. Otherwise, we're going to have some serious problems. It's sort of like an autistic human being, you know, it just has one sort of understanding of things, and it needs to basically have that social understanding as well, which it's going to probably have to learn. I don't know. We'll see what happens the next few years. But so far, I'm not impressed with what it thrashes out. And but maybe one day I'll be surprised. So here you go. This is what they teach you at design school. Design school, they teach you so many things. They teach you how to work through the night, which is one of the biggest problems. Now, working through the night is not conducive to your health, you know, firstly, and to your eyes. Basically, staring at a piece of paper or at a screen all night can be detrimental. And what you need in your career are tools to bolster your process and make things easier. So who am I? My name is Jason. This is my family. And what's so important is that you spend time with your loved ones, your friends, your family, and you make time in your life, especially if you're a design architect, to do the things that you love. And I know it's very hard for designers because we're also time strapped. You know, besides the business of architecture, you need to free up some time. You need to go camping. You need to spend time, you know, enjoying the mountains or the dams or the lakes or wherever you'll end up going, the sea, and have the ability to leverage some extra time. And it's so important to have tools at our disposal that help us do that. I live in Jerusalem. This is Jerusalem, the city of Jerusalem. It's a beautiful city, ancient city, thousands of years of design and architecture layered, and there's a cacophony or an eclectic mix of the new and the old, and really a big place. This is just a small part of it. This is the old city, which was built by the Romans, called Aelia Capitolina, and there you can see in the foreground the ancient walls that still exist. And this is the markets in Jerusalem, which are called shuks, or in Arabic souks, and then you can see there's different types of ancient architecture, and so this is where I'm situated right now, and really beautiful place. This is Israel, magnificent place, a lot of amazing beaches, a lot of amazing places to watch the sunset and to enjoy the Mediterranean Ocean, beautiful swimming everywhere, beautiful beaches. So great life. So this is really the process in general. We're going to take a look at this slide. It's a very powerful slide. And I see a lot of people have joined, and we're going to jump in again here into the slides. Sorry, I was just looking at the chat. So this is the process. On the left-hand side, you've got your architectural softwares that you use to design, right? Who uses ArchiCAD? Anyone use ArchiCAD in the group right now? Okay, brilliant. And then we have our Revit users, you know, and then you have the smaller type of products like Chief Architect and Vectorworks, and there's several others. I haven't put them on here. But the whole idea here is to, in the orange block here, if you can see my arrow, is to remove complex render time and software. And I'm not saying that by any means to remove these totally from your repertoire, but through your process to get into something that's a lot easier right in the beginning. And we're going to take a look at that. So this arrow at the top is showing you that you can jump straight over to SketchUp and Photoshop. And what I wanted to say to you is these are the softwares we're going to talk about tonight, is because SketchUp and Photoshop together will set you up for the future of AI. AI, you need imagery in a certain way. SketchUp and Photoshop together will give you the tools to tweak your imagery. So they're very powerful tools and very sort of add-on tools to what you're already using. Then, if you really want to use, let's say you want to use D5 render, then you would export from SketchUp into D5 render or into Lumion or into Twinmotion. But you should use SketchUp as your middleman. It's sort of like the bridge. And why I'm saying that is because in SketchUp, you can tweak the models that you've already created, and then you could re-render them in D5 Render or Unreal Editor or Twinmotion. So SketchUp and Photoshop as those type of tools, you know, as an in-between phase are ideal. And that's really what we're going to speak about tonight. And you'll see the process, and you'll see this is sort of the process when you obviously in your office or in your design studio, and you are meeting your clients. So you would present one of these circles at each meeting. So I've just broken it down into 5 examples here, 5 sessions. So every time you meet with your client, you're going to be offering them a different stage of your design process. So obviously here in the blue line, this is the design development conversation, the concept design. So you'll be back and forthing with your client, you know, and there's a design conversation. And every time you meet with them, which would be one of these circles in the blue, then you would present what you've got, your plans, your sections, your elevations, and you would accompany it probably with some sort of 3D exploration. And that's exactly how most architects are working, you know. But then obviously you'd get into the green stage here, where the green arrow is, where your design gets locked in, right? There's a stage where you get up to where you start locking your design in. And that's super important, because what happens is there's a different set of tools that we land up using for that. And we're going to speak about that now. So here's typically what I came up with in my career. I was always looking for a faster sketch-like technique in the beginning. The faster sketch-like technique that would allow me to have that conversation with my client really quickly without having to break my back. And that's exactly what happened. And that's exactly what happened to me, because I didn't want to get home for breakfast in the morning. I wanted to find a method that gave me the ability to walk out of the office or the design studio, if you want to call it that, at 5:30, you know, to get home to my family so that I could have an early dinner, I could be with my kids, etc., etc. So that's what really happened to me. But there is a place in this process where you lock in your design in the photorealistic render right at the end, right? So you need 2 processes in place. You need the sketch-like render or the quick render, if you want to call it that, to have the design conversation with your clients. And then right at the end, when you lock your design in, then you can go off into the horizon, into the landscape with your D5 render, your Lumion, your Twinmotion, or you can employ someone to do that, because now your client knows exactly what's going on. And there's materials associated now to your design and etc. So now you can engage in photorealism, because materials become a big part of photorealistic render. But when you're doing sketches, you don't need to get involved in that type of thing. So these 2 softwares have helped me immensely. And what we're going to do is we're going to discover what they can achieve for you. We've got 20 people in the group, great group. Welcome to everyone tonight. Sorry if you came in late. You can always catch the beginning. Really what we're doing is we're taking a look at a way to streamline the design presentation process when it comes to 3D imagery. So I've been privileged to teach a lot of people over the last couple of years. A couple of hundred people have been through my program. and it's been an amazing, amazing journey. What I found out through my process of teaching and empowering students is that community has been the most incredible thing. Why? Because as design architects, we get so trapped in our own worlds. We get trapped in our little seats behind our laptops, behind our desktops, and we don't get out much, you know, and it's so important to get feedback. So what I discovered over the last 2 years right now is we've built the most amazing community. This is a session in our community. And then what's really happened there is there's been an extreme amount of growth and structure and mentorship. And that's been really something that I've really, really enjoyed, and everyone else has. So we have a community. So why are we talking about all of this? Is that the design studio has changed drastically. And at the top left, you can see in the 1940s, you know, probably 1920s, 1940s, somewhere around the design studios just used to look like that. Everyone had to draw on a big board. There were no computers. And then there was this evolution where, sorry, guys, let me just go back. There was this evolution of the drawing board where technology took a huge leap and bound and became this type of drawing board where it was more compact, that they didn't need weights and magnets, and pens changed. And so that was the evolution up until the 1990s. These are just thumbsuck numbers, so don't hold me by them, but somewhere in the region. You know, you can't really be exact when everything it just one day erupted into a change. But here we go. Here's the design studio in 2000, you know, where everything became dual screen. And we all have, you know, two screens, one screen to have Revit on, the other screen to really do our presentations or look at our email. And the studio evolved. And with that evolution of the studio came a whole bunch of new softwares, and people basically, you know, got lost in their processes, because now there was this huge fragmentation of different softwares. You've got ArchiCAD, you've got Revit, you've got Vectorworks, you've got render softwares, 20 of them. And now which tools do you combine to make everything a success became quite a big issue, and still is. I think a lot of people just do what everyone else tells them to do and follow, you know, and that is also something that is not right. You know, that we have to follow what the big companies tell us to do is not exactly the right path to take. You can see in 2024, and you've got people wearing these Oculus, you know, maybe Apple Mac, you know, is given over to the industry, and it's absolutely fascinating. But the truth be told is that clients, although there's this huge evolution, clients still want simplicity. Clients still want to be shown what to do, and they still want to have a rapport with the architect where the architect simplifies things for them. And so sometimes less is more, you know, you have to be really mature about your process these days. Anyway, so sometimes this can be the feeling for most architects that are preparing 3D drawings. And we're talking about photorealistic drawings now. It's sort of like a cockpit of a 747. You know, this does look like an older type of plane, but basically there's so many bells and whistles that you have to deal with. By the time you render it, you're not exactly sure which ones to slide up and down. And it's sort of like this overwhelm. And a lot of architects opt in to just reverting back to paper because of this. And what I'm suggesting, this is an image from the Chaos Group. If you take a look at these images, they're really powerful. So this is V-Ray. It's mind-blowing. You know, whoever produced this, absolutely wonderful image. It looks like a photo taken with a Canon or a proper digital camera took this, and it's not. This is a proper render that comes from V-Ray. But like I said earlier, these renders, here's another one from the Chaos Group from their website, and here's the one from Lumion. These renders are mind-blowing, but the issue is you have to be a complete genius. We know who geniuses are, you know, on the top left. I don't know if you recognize that image. I think that's Mozart. Mozart was a genius of music. But when it comes to geniuses in the world, like we have Frank Lloyd Wright, we have Antonio Gaudi, we've got Le Corbusier, we've got Kahn at the top there. So we've got so many people that were so good at what they're doing. And to produce an image like this, you have to be one of those. You know, you have to fall into that category, because this type of image is mind-blowing, but it doesn't take 10 minutes. It doesn't take an hour. It doesn't take 10 hours. It can take a couple of days to put something like this together to look like this. And that's the problem in the industry. So now, you know, artificial intelligence is saying, oh, I can do this in 5 seconds. It can't exactly do this yet. And so interiors for artificial intelligence seem to be better than exteriors right now, but it's still sort of struggling to find its feet, and to be able to create something as refined as this is very difficult with AI, because you don't have that level of control. You can't just select your furniture, change your furniture, etc. You know, you have to kind of rely on the lottery. You push the button, whatever pops out is what you take. Anyway, let's go forward. Less is more. Simpler imagery can convey ideas better. Clients can digest easily. You need to be able to give your clients baby food. This is where you will build rapport with your clients. Baby food is something that you need to feed them so that they get excited about your work. And there's no better way to do it than to refer back to Frank Lloyd Wright. Why? Because he taught me through his drawings, I would say indirectly, because he's no longer alive, or neither is Marion Griffin Mahoney, who was his 3D artist, but they created imagery that somehow pulled their designs together really amazingly, and also gave the client the ability to relate back to the project. And we're just going to take a look at a couple of images. This is one of their projects, and you can see when you take a look at it, it's very, very engaging. It's very easy on the eyes. There's a lot of line work. You can see the pen work in there. You can see shadow work, and you can see color. I'm sure this could be a combination of pastel and crayon, and just really amazing work. And what it really reminds me of is what we try and strive for today when we want to create conceptual design. This type of image is really powerful. There's also the foliage, the backdrop of the foliage in here. It's really, really amazing. And you can pick the design up instantly, and it's not intimidating because there's no brickwork on the roof. There's a suggestion of color. There's no definitive material use, but only color. So you can see that through the use of color, shadow, line work, and perspective, they've managed to create something absolutely mind-blowing. And that's really what we can learn from. Here's some more imagery from his design studio. Same thing. Can just connect straight back to the design in super quick times and understand where they were heading. So what we're going to be speaking about tonight is the artful sketch-like render. And before we do that, I just wanted to have an advertisement just to tell you that I'll be meeting a couple of people this week for 45 minutes. If you're one of the lucky ones, no man or woman is an island. If you're a designer and you want some feedback on your design process, then all you really need to do is go to the conceptdesignarchitect.com/book me, and I'll paste that in the chat right now. And so I'm going to paste this into the chat so you guys can click on it. I have space for about 5 people. I would suggest that you grab your spot. It's free, it's complimentary, but I'll give you feedback. You'll meet with me personally, and we'll take a look at your process, and we'll take a look at how we can streamline your process, and together how we can draw up an action plan. It's all about you, your process, and the way you're busy doing things. So I'll give you feedback on that. Anyway, let's move forward. Why is the handcrafted image so important? And why are we talking about this is because there are different mediums out there in the world that clients relate to. And what I have kind of analyzed and felt kind of works better in the world, if you want to call it that, from a business point of view, and that's the handcrafted image. But the truth is, I'm going to show you some handcrafted imagery here, really beautiful. And then we're going to jump into some of my student work. And then after that, we're going to take a look at a little bit of SketchUp, a little bit of Photoshop. We're going to spend 10 minutes on that. And I'm going to show you the process. So this is handcrafted, really beautiful imagery. It's obviously they've used a bit of computer generated imagery in the background, but really on top of it, they use the fine liner. But it's just so evocative, you know, the line work, the way the lines overshoot, the foliage, the Copic marker they've used, and just really beautiful. And as a client, you know, this type of hand imagery is really amazing. But the problem with handcrafted imagery is you need to be super talented. You also need to practice how to do this type of stuff, you know. There's really a distilling of the design. When you take a look at this pencil crayon, I mean, you can instantly relate to the space, like within seconds. So if this was a photorealistic render, it would be nice. But the thing is that it's sort of like photorealism is so overwhelming. There's just so much detail in it. And when it comes to a sketch and you're selling your design, you kind of want to move back. You want to kind of distill things and make it simpler for your client in the beginning. Like I said, towards the end of your process, you can absolutely get involved in photorealism if the client wants that, and they can you can employ someone to do it for you. But so my process, this is a Revit model that I created. And basically, within about 30 minutes, create an image like this. So it can be done. You could take a very sterile model from Revit and export it out as a DWG and then import it into SketchUp. And with a few sort of tricks, you can bring your SketchUp model into Photoshop as imagery, and you can start to soften it and create these amazing effects that make it look like it was hand rendered. When you take a look at it, it almost looks like it was hand rendered. And what we're going to do now, just I thought would be really exciting, is I'm going to show you some of my students' work. We have about 30 students right now producing some really amazing work. And I just wanted to give you a close-up of what that work looks like, because you'll be blown away by the handcrafted styles that we have achieved by using SketchUp and Photoshop in the process. So let's just jump in here. I'm going to move the imagery onto the page. Is everyone seeing the icons on the left? Can everyone see this particular image?
Yes, we have the full, yeah, we have it now.
Okay, great. So this is one of my students, and she put this together. Her name is Brigitte, and she really did a great job. And she can do an image like this in about 15 to 20 minutes per image. And it's once you've got your model, then the world's your oyster. You can go and create this amazing detail. Take a look at the detail here. I'm going to try and zoom in a little bit, and you can create some mind-blowing imagery. And it's really, you can see that there's line work, you can see that there's foliage, you can see that there's this amazing sort of attention to detail. And you create these almost Copic looking like images, really beautiful, also sort of like a watercolor effect. Take a look at this. This is a sort of, I guess, a different style of building, a European type of building, and really, really beautiful imagery there. Let's just take a look at this one. So here you go. There's just amazing imagery that you can create with this effect, a touch of texture in this one. But when you zoom in here, you can absolutely see it looks like there's pen work. It looks like, you know, there's a combination of line work. And it just really, when you print this out on paper, it's just absolutely fantastic. And why I say it's fantastic is because when you take a look at these images, the white of the page shines through. So when the white of the page gets utilized as the color white, then when you print things out, it is absolutely mind-blowing on the paper. It almost has a waxy finish, which when it comes to renders that have been created photorealistically, it blocks the page out. So that gives us the ability to fuse images together. and you can absolutely combine all these images together, your elevations, your sections, you know, your plans, and you can come up with some really cool stuff where you start combining imagery with a very thoughtful narrative for your portfolio. And drawings like this will definitely get your clients excited, you know. And if you've got an ability to do stuff like this quickly, you'll be able to go home early and you'll be able to enjoy your evening with your family, friends, or your loved ones. He has a different style. Adalberto, he's got this cool style. It's very sort of stipply, or it's got like a stipple effect. He's an amazing guy, amazing student, and he's done some amazing layout here. But you can see when you combine these images together, it almost looks like a concept design from different angles. You know, when you see cars get designed on paper, sort of the same feeling. So when you have 3 images and the client's waiting for their design and they see, wow, this guy knows what he's doing, then they're going to really get excited about the design as well as the presentation. This is an internal view, and you can just take a look at the ability that we've got to make it to making it look like a pencil has been used here. There's a lot of hatching and it really looks amazing. You can see there's a lot of pen work, a lot of line work, and you can just see the quality of this. And you can't do this properly with AI. You really can't. But take a look at this detail here. Absolutely wonderful, wonderful detail. I'm zooming in. And this was taken, well, this image was saved and is really probably high resolution, probably 150 DPI. And when printed out on paper, just really a piece of art. Let's move forward. I'll just show you some more images. And here's an interior of a hotel. Absolutely gorgeous. You know, spatial, almost looks like Copic marker. This is Angie's work and Brigitte combined. They have done a pub in Ireland. This is absolutely gorgeous. The lighting is beautiful, very rich. It feels like the inside of an Irish pub. And I think Angie's online with us tonight. So thank you, Angie, for letting us use this in our presentation tonight. But take a look at the line work here. Absolutely marvelous. Isn't this gorgeous, really? Just super exciting. And just also to limit the profiles of the people, not to make people too intense, so that the architecture takes precedence over the design, you know, when you're looking at an image. And it's really important to be very subtle about things when you are creating design imagery like this. It's very important to make sure that it focuses on the design and the architecture, you know, and these details here, like a champagne glass and a beer, and maybe someone's eating a steak here, I'm not sure, but some biscuits and so on and so forth. Really beautiful, beautiful image. Here's an interior here, also beautiful from Brigitte. And here you go. Take a look at this detail. Books in this bookcase. This type of control is super important. Take a look at the fireplace here. Just really amazing timber piled up in this fireplace, but the line work on the fireplace, it's absolutely wonderful and evocative. And then you have the line work on the ceiling and just exquisite imagery to sell your design. In the foreground here, we've got cushions, we've got a throw, and so on and so forth. You can see how powerful these images are. This is another image, really beautiful, almost looks like Frank Lloyd Wright, of a modern design, just in its context, just absolutely gorgeous. I don't know if you guys can relate to the power of the style. It's just super architectonic, you know. And the thing is, with a handcrafted drawing, the most important thing is that the client thinks that you've drawn it, but this was created with leveraging the tools of SketchUp and Photoshop, you know, and it goes way beyond what AI can do. This is the same project, but what we did here is we used AI to create this foliage in the foreground. And well, I didn't use it, but the student used it. And you can really bring stuff in from, you know, that's been generated in AI, but the rest of the model was created that way. And the foliage, sometimes you can set off by using programs like Midjourney and all that cool programs out there that give you some amazing stuff. Here you go, another interior from the same artist, architect, designer. Magnificent, magnificent interior. Sells the scheme. If I was the client, I'd say to the architect, you know, this is what I want. So I'll sign on the dotted line here. Here we go. We got some more architecture here from Eric Reach. He's doing some great work here. This was from the night before. We had a critique in our session. Just really beautiful stuff. So there's just so much you can do. It's spring here in the Middle East, and here are the almond blossoms here in the foreground, and you can really get some mind-blowing imagery, you know, especially if you like watercolors, you can bring those textures. Everything's done in Photoshop here. Everything is done with Photoshop, and also combining the imagery from SketchUp into Photoshop and mixing them together in Photoshop. So when you see the potential, let me see if I can find some more imagery here. Then you can be more conservative in your approach. You can do layouts like this. This is a layout from one of my students using the same type of method, but for planning. Just really beautiful. You know, it's an urban scheme. Just magnificent, magnificent work. Let's see what else here. Here's the same project. It's a landscape close to, I think, Lake Ontario, and just magnificent, absolutely beautiful imagery, a combination of SketchUp and Photoshop to produce all of this imagery. But you can see the type of detail that you can achieve, because SketchUp gives us the line work, and the line work shows that it's been handcrafted. Anyway, so that's the story there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to basically jump into SketchUp, and let's just go back into SketchUp over here, and I'm going to pull it onto my screen. And I set up this project for us tonight. We're going to take a look at why SketchUp is so cool. And you might think, you know, SketchUp is old, but it's got the tools that we need. And as old as it's been around for so long, it's just got some stuff that nothing else has got. And the line work in SketchUp is absolutely superb. And when we take a look at the line work in SketchUp, it helps us craft our building. Let me put the shadows on here, see what I'm talking about. So SketchUp is cool because it generates us line work. And with the line work, we can extend or dovetail all the lines, just like you'd use a rotring pen. And that gives us a really powerful image. Now, the thing is this, you know, obviously, if you've got a design that's not so great, then, you know, your line work's not going to look great either. So you need to be able to design nicely so that your model looks great. So you can't expect a model to look great if your design is not so great. And that's a big problem. People expect the computer to just evolve their design for them. But at the end of the day, that's not what it's about. It's about a good combination of design and a good combination of render. Those two things together really will give you an amazing image. And as you can see here, SketchUp allows us to create this line work even in this Harley Davidson that's sitting outside here. And the most amazing thing about SketchUp, it's got the ability to allow you to fly around a model and to pick dynamic views. You know, I'm not using anything except my mouse right now, and I'm rolling my mouse in and out, and it's giving me the ability to find a view without having to type anything in. I'm not even touching the keyboard. And that for me is a huge, huge bonus, because at the end of the day, you want to find the most seductive views for your clients, and then you're going to go and render them. And then, so what you would be able to do is, I call it the hummingbird effect. You know, you're kind of like this little hummingbird, and you can just get into all the cool things that your design wants to show, and you can really find those nooks and crannies really by moving around it. The other cool thing about SketchUp is that it's got cool shadows. You know, they're very archaic, but very powerful when you get into Photoshop. So these particular shadows, you can adjust things with your shadows. They're not D5 render shadows, but when you get into Photoshop, they're very, very powerful, because what we do in Photoshop is we soften the shadows, we soften the line work, we soften everything, and we bring it together to look really, really amazing. And the other thing with SketchUp is that you can distort your field of view, which means that if you have a camera, let's say like you're an avid photographer and you have an Olympus camera and you go out for the day and you're shooting imagery, then you have different lenses. So SketchUp has the ability to adjust the field of view, which means that you can type the degree of your camera lens in, and it will distort the perspective for you. Obviously, you don't want to distort it like this, where it looks completely unrealistic, but you could also easily distort the perspective so that you can get into certain views that you never had the opportunity to get into before. So that's really exciting about SketchUp. And also you can change your line work. You could say, okay, no, I want my line work to be a different color. And you could absolutely go and change your line work. Here we're going to choose a navy blue. And there you go. So our line work's been changed. And you can also really get different effects out of your line work, which is really, really cool. And so all of these aspects. So the biggest problem in the world right now is there's like this turnkey solution. Everything gets done all at once. And so what we do is we break it up into a process where we've got complete control over our drawing in Photoshop, and we bring it into a stack, and we kind of edit things very carefully with a certain process to make it look really amazing, like the drawings that you saw before, because there's some really powerful tools in Photoshop that can really bring life to the foundations that we export from SketchUp. So SketchUp and Photoshop work hand in hand, and it's not something that you can just do all by itself in SketchUp. You need to be able to use Photoshop with SketchUp, and that will also help you and lend you to the AI world also. So it will give you the tools that you need for the AI world, which you could use in the same way that we use Photoshop right now. So that's really exciting stuff happening. And these are the tools that you need for the future. That's all I can say to most architects. Now, quickly, let's just jump into the next place, which is really Photoshop. What's so exciting about Photoshop is that there's so much you can do in Photoshop. I'm only going to be able to show you a little bit tonight. But what I wanted to show you is like, I'm going to keep this particular view right now. I'm going to export it out, right? I'm going to export it here in 1 second to the desktop. You'll see how quickly it goes. And we're going to save it as a JPEG. I'm just going to export 2 images. I'm going to export this one. We'll call it 1. And then I'm going to export another one. Let's just see what we can do. It's going off to the desktop. There you go. It's done. We're going to go and export this one. Let's just find a decent view here. And we're going to export that out to the desktop, right? And we're going to call this 3. And then I'm going to choose a view from above. And we're going to export that too. So we're going to have 3 images. So let's just go and find that view from above. I'm going to take my perspective off here. Can you see it's in perspective? The view from above is actually in perspective. I'm going to take it off. You can see the shadows are magnificent here. We can absolutely change the shadows if we want, right? We can orientate our shadows in a different way if we feel that we need a more interesting shadow layout. So maybe, you know, you could come into SketchUp over here and you could just make your shadows a little bit darker. And we can go and export that out. And what you'll notice is that, you know, how quickly everything happens. You don't need AI. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put Photoshop. This is Photoshop. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open those 3 drawings that we just exported. And we are going to bring them in. There it is. There's number 2. There's number 3. And we're going to bring number 1 in. There we are. We're in Photoshop. I'm going to open number 2. And I'm going to open number 3 all together. So we've got all of these in Photoshop. Now, Photoshop, what we're busy doing now is layout. Layout is extremely important for any architect. If you're building a portfolio for your future, you need Photoshop. You can use Procreate. If you're using an iPad, it works similar to Photoshop, but Photoshop is the tools that you need if you are a designer. There's no ways of getting around it because it's just got everything and more. You could spend 2 years learning what it's got, you know. So what we're going to do is I've already opened up a page here. This is a tabloid size piece of paper, and I'm just going to pull this image onto the surface of that paper. Now you'll see it will come in, it'll be huge. And so if we in Photoshop, we can change the size of our image really easily. Now we can put it on the page like that. Sorry, this is actually a beach house on the beach. And I actually should have mentioned that in the beginning. It's a steel container house that's used as a lifeguard pavilion. And we're just going to put these images on the same page. Now it's really, really powerful because watch what I'm doing. I'm putting these 2 images on a page. And you've seen it with your own eyes, how quickly I'm doing this. There you go. We've got a presentation ready for our client. And we've spent literally 10, 15 minutes doing this layout. Let's just soften it up here. Oops. Let's just soften up a little bit. Give me 1 second. And I'll soften it up. I'll just show you how we do that. And soften this out a little bit. And here we go. So I guess that image can go there. And Photoshop's got layers. So on the right-hand side, you can see each page has its own layer. So I can move each page around, which really gives me the ability to position things and to change the scale of everything and put it together. So we're going to put that image at the top there. And we're going to soften it a little bit. Oops. I'm going to soften it a little bit there. And then we're going to bring our site in here. Let's see what we can do with that. So here's our site. And we're going to go and put it in somewhere. And obviously, there's a lot more that goes into this. But right now, you know, maybe you've spent a week on the planning of your projects and you want to get something out for the client. But you can create the most amazing layouts and narrative around each project and really blow your clients out of the water. And obviously, there's another level of achieving this. This is a very basic, crude level, but you can really get exciting about it. And that's basically it in a nutshell. I just wanted to say to you before we open up for some questions, because we're going on now. Let me take a look at the time, an hour. So thank you for being with us for the hour. But once again, I wanted to say that I will be offering 5 lucky people this week a time to connect with me. I only have place for 5 people. I would suggest if you can get on the web even right now and click on this, and you can book a time. There's a little bit of a questionnaire that I will ask you just to get some basics about you, and that feedback will be integral to your process, and you'll be able to grow absolutely a huge amount this week. If you want to get some feedback, simply just click on that link. It's in the chat. And I'd love to meet you. I'd love to see what you're up to, see how I can help you. Obviously, there is a training that we give. We have a community, and the community is a very powerful community. And if you want to grow and you want to be part of a community, then I would suggest, booking a time with me, and we can chat about that as well. Anyway, so that's the story. Any questions? I'll be opening up for 5 to 10 minutes of questions. Yeah, so let's open up. Guys, you're welcome to switch your mics on, and let's have a chat. Any questions in the chat, or you can put your mics on if you really want to. Okay, Zen, thank you. He says, thank you. Any questions about the process? Yes. I'm looking for the next question. No questions. Just black boxes here.
I have a question.
Yes.
Hello. Haven't seen you in a while.
Hey, Jelena. Many years.
Yeah. Just seems like now you have a lot more interior options to provide renderings of. Previously it was mostly exterior.
Yes. Yes.
So is there ability to light it better on the interior?
Yes. No, same. The same technology that's been around. There are ways to do interiors that you can light the interiors and have shadows inside your interiors in the same way that we do the exteriors. It's just a couple of steps more than what we do with our exteriors.
So there is a lighting on the inside that's a bit able to do it or not?
Yes, you can. You can. It's the same light on the inside. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I hope that helps.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have
Anyone
a question
else?
for you. I have
Yes.
a question. Can you repeat or put on the screen one more time your address and contact confirmation?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to see the contact information?
Yes, please.
Just grab a pen and I will share the screen again.
Yes, please.
Okay, maybe I didn't put on long enough.
Thank you.
You got that?
I took a picture of it.
Conceptdesignarchitect.com.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. And then obviously if you type book me /book me, it will take you to that link, which will give you the questionnaire. Okay. Anyway, any more questions?
Yes.
Yes,
This is
Seppo.
There's where you spoke about there's the image of the cockpit of an aircraft, and there's that overwhelm. To
Yes.
me, when I was learning, when I was in university, I used lots of Corel Draw, and there was the option between Corel Draw and Photoshop.
Yes.
And I chose Corel.
Yes.
But when I go to Photoshop, there's colleagues who used Photoshop and I was using Corel Draw. When I go into Photoshop, in that space, I get this overwhelm because to do a certain thing, you find there's 20 ways to do the same thing. And I'll do it today. If I come back next week, I'm not too sure where to find the same tool. So within this overwhelm, there's another one in that particular program. So it's not really a question, it's just stating that.
Yes, you're absolutely right. I hear you, and I hear you're overwhelmed. And that's what happens to a lot of designers, is that they get so caught up in the tech that it kind of gives you a headache, and you kind of want to stay away from that. You know, we're simple people. We don't need too much to deal with. And so the training that I offer my students is we do use Photoshop and we use SketchUp, but we keep it simple. We try to keep the process simple, you know. I mean, obviously you can complicate any process, but like if you could kind of distill 3 or 4 good things about each software and then just stick to them, you know, because like it's like Photoshop is such a profound software. It goes so deep. It does a million different things, but you don't need those million different things. You need about 4 things to do what we do. And then so you extract the strengths of each software, and that in itself is the power. I call it being a hybrid architect. You know, extract the power of the softwares that can give you the tools that you need. But firstly, you have to identify those tools. Now, CorelDRAW is a vector-based. I know CorelDRAW intimately, and another program that's very much like CorelDRAW is Adobe Illustrator. I don't use those vector-based programs. It's not something that you need to be using. You can use Photoshop, and you can simplify the way you use Photoshop without getting caught up in the details of using CorelDRAW and the vector and the lines. Oh, what a nightmare. You want to get in and out of there quickly. So I hear you, Tsepo. That's exactly that. Overwhelm is a big problem. And what happens with most architects that get that overwhelm is they think, oh my gosh, let me just stick to paper. You know, I'd rather just, you know, stick to using my butcher paper with a pen, right?
Yes.
And
Very true.
that happens all the time because, you know, you want to steer away from wrestling with tech. Anyway, yeah.
All right.
Any
Thanks.
other?
I hear you.
Yes.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
No worries, guys. One more question. Go for it,
Right.
guys. Patrick.
Right. Yes. Jason,
Hi, Pat.
hope you're doing well.
Yes, I'm great. Welcome to you again. You in Zim, eh? Are you in Zimbabwe?
No, Ghana.
Ghana. Sorry. I always make a mistake. Ghana.
Yes.
Go for it.
Right. Jason, I will first have to commend you for what you've been doing over the years. In fact, I've been a beneficiary of this webinar anytime I joined.
Asha.
From the presentation, you realize that you've kept things simple from day one to where we are now. I'd like to know if Photoshop it is the tool that does the magic after importing whatever module from SketchUp to Photoshop and then finish it up and get the very best out you always present to us from your
Yes.
students. Yes.
Yes. So that process is what the training's about. And the training that we have is 6 months. So we have it doesn't take 6 months to learn it, but we have a community where it's like a school. It's like being part of a school online. And we have critique sessions because you need time to use the process together with your own designs. And so we offer that opportunity, and we offer you that type of process within the training. And it takes time, but there is a paint by numbers approach to that process. And obviously that's what the school is about, you know. And we introduce other processes as well, like the mid-journey process, which is recent, the interior process, the external render processes. And it takes time. It's not something you can teach someone in a webinar online. It needs to be a couple of weeks, I guess, 2-3 weeks, and then you'd understand, you know, that flow to get it to that level of the students. Hope that makes sense. Would you agree with me, Angie?
Yes, I do. I do.
Okay.
I do
Let's hear
like
from
that.
Angie. Angie's one of my students. She's in the group right now. Tell us a little bit more, Ange.
Hi, Jason. Hi, how are you? Good, great to be here. And I've a few friends just arrived in, so we're and they're I was going to switch off, and then I remembered it's the artistic department, so they've done special effects on that Bauhaus project that we looked at. On the old section, and they do stage sets and they do artwork locally as well. So they're amazing with what they do. But I've been
Beautiful.
showing
Welcome,
them.
welcome.
I've been showing them because I've been doing all my drawings by hand until a month or so ago, and they've been seeing my computerized drawings. So they're really excited to see how the 3D
process transformed.
process is done.
Yes. By the way, the internal pub was from Angie. Angie did the internal pub. So she started off just knowing two-dimensional CAD. She's a great designer, a great architect, and she's one of those architects that kind of like to stay away from tech, and then she just got deep into it. Very, very nice. Beautiful.
So these are all by hand, and now I'm thrilled, Jason, with what I've just learned from you in a short few months, to be able to start with SketchUp and to be able to put this on paper in 3D and render it. It's your word, mind-blowing is the perfect word, and I'm really thrilled to be able to do that in a short space of time. So guys, honestly, you won't regret it if you. I'm really thrilled with what I'm able to do now. So I'm really grateful to you, Jason. So thanks for that. And working with the class is wonderful as well. The dynamic of all the other people in the class is great.
A lot of people don't realize that it's one thing to do a training, or to go to YouTube but when you work within a structure with a community, the leverage that you get is exponential, because it's one thing understanding a process, but it's another thing getting feedback on that process. Someone telling you, no, that doesn't look good, or that looks good. And it's over a certain amount of time, especially for design architects and design presentations, that feedback will help you grow. It could be feedback from me as a mentor, or it could be feedback from other architects that are within the program. Anyway, guys, so like I said, go to the concept, designarchitect.com. I'd love to meet you, /book me, answer the questions, go through the questions. You'll come to my calendar page, and then you can book a time with me, and we'll meet. There's no cost to it. There's no strings attached to it. I will look at your process. We're going to be looking at what you're doing, and we're going to help you try and grow for 2024. And guys, it's been fantastic to be with everyone tonight. I've got to jump into another webinar. I love sharing with you, and please God, I've helped you to get on the right track when it comes to presentation. You can't go wrong. And just a friendly good night to everyone.
Yeah. Okay. Good night. Bye. All the best, Jason. Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.
Okay, cool.
Thank you,
Bye.
Jason.